Alrighty. Alright, let's go ahead and get ourselves squared up here. Oh, nonsense don't stop. Nonsense just doesn't stop. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News, the unreliable ones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the newsroom and welcome to the Goutopia News Network, your unreliable source for DSP News. This is the Snort Report brought to you by SnortBucks Coffee Company, the best beverage company ever. Let's go. So, DSP, as usual, is off his rocker on some crazy ass shit, telling people to stop being poor and go out and get a job. If I remember correctly, Kim Kardashian and her family had an interview saying something along those lines. So it's kind of funny to hear DSP mirror what an E thought basically said, being that Kim has been, most of her family, to be honest with you, basically made a living off of their backs or on all fours, whatever. DSP can relate, I'm sure, if you think about what he does with these dents. So anyway, it's funny to hear him talk some nonsense the way he is. This is probably going to be a short one, but let's try to give it the respect it deserves, that an e-beggar has the nerve to go around and call other people poor and telling them to get jobs. I felt like that was warranted of a Snort report. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my favorite segment, hopefully your favorite segment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my TED Talk. Since when are people who are dependent on government assistance and or government aid having the nerve to go around and tell people to get jobs and work? Now, most of you are being like, whoa, DSP is on government aid? DSP is on government assistance? Hear me out. If you're getting money regularly, you know what I'm saying, on a regular basis, consistently, from people who are mentally and physically disabled, who are on government aid, government assistance, SSI, whatever you want to call it, does that not mean that you yourself are not dependent on that as well? On top of that, and I want you to think about this, I wanted to turn this into a name this segment later, or I'll name the segment later, and I think I'm going to. I honestly think I'm going to do it. Given DSP's lifestyle, who's to say that DSP himself isn't on disability? I want you to really think about this for a minute. We don't know if DSP is claiming disability or not. He's been bitching and complaining about that back injury since Connecticut. You know what I'm saying? It's been many, many years. That's 2014. He's been complaining about his back even before that. But 2014 in particular, you know what I'm saying? He's been bitching about that back. That's over a decade. He leaves his house once a week, maybe twice, if lucky. He doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't do anything except for stream. It makes me wonder if he's actually claiming disability. If he actually himself is listed somewhere as disabled. And obviously he is mentally disabled, but I'm talking about physically disabled. I'm wondering if that's a thing. And I don't know if that's something that would be public. I'm not sure if that's something that you can publicly check. I should have asked like Meth Bear or somebody about that. And see if that's actually a thing. But it's an interesting thing, that's kind of theory that's been floating my noodle for a little while. And I'm just wondering if he is collecting disability, not just collecting from the disabled. Now, back to our subject at hand. DSP begging for money. DSP telling people to stop being poor and get jobs, coming from someone who begs for money for a living, because nothing that he does produces anything that would remotely come across as a job or can generate income, except for begging people for money and saying that if they don't give him money, he can't keep doing what he's doing, which is even more ironic because what he does is beg. He doesn't play games for a living anymore. He can't talk about anything else without that falling apart because he's too lazy to do the research, on top of the fact that he doesn't have any interest or anything. So literally, when he tells you, hey, if you guys want this thing to keep going, I need you guys to contribute, he's literally saying, give me money so he can continue to beg. That's literally what he's saying. I'm begging you guys for money so I can continue to beg tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. And it's an endless vicious cycle because he doesn't do anything else. Yeah, he'll try to sit there and nostalgia bait people or try to get people in fucking nostalgia traps for games, but he's not a real fan. He don't really care. And most games he's going to outright quit anyway if they don't do well after one or two streams, even if they are big releases. and then he'll come up with a multitude of excuses on why it failed. And yet again, most people are like, oh, well, DSP's too scared to get a job. That's why it is. I don't think DSP can get a job anymore. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been one of those people, as well as many, who have said, oh, well, he's only going to be able to get, at best, he can get middle management. Maybe at a, get himself an office position, middle management, if he really works at it. He's not going to get that off the gate. Other than that, he's going in at 9 to 5 entry level. I don't even know if he even has the mental dexterity, the social capability, or if he's even physically capable of doing that anymore. I don't think that's a thing. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the video, that circles back to, is DSP on disability? And if he's not, is he slowly but surely trying to work himself in position to be on disability? Think about it. The dude is incredibly malformed, if you will. He has no real muscle structure to him whatsoever. When he walks and prances around, it looks like it takes way more effort than it should. You guys saw that one pathetic display when he tried to do push-ups, a push-up, if you will. You saw how bad that was. Even when he was prancing around, even though the guy admits that he walks on the balls of his feet, which is very autistic, not joking around. I mean, that really is something that some people who are autistic do. Even then, he doesn't actually have very good posture or structure to him. He's falling apart. Sooner than later, if he isn't on disability already, he's going to go on to it. What I'm saying is, was this his plan? Did he purposely put himself in a situation to where eventually he could get on disability? Let's be honest, he doesn't want it. He doesn't care if he has like a long, happy life. He just wants to be comfortable in the day-to-day. Did he do what Cat did? Did he give up independence for comfort? Did he give up his freedom and whatnot for certainty? You know what I'm saying? What was it? Because like I said, DSP is not going to have any children. He doesn't really care about anybody, about his family as a whole anyway. He's only thinking about himself. Hell, he doesn't even give a shit about Cat. So if he's willing to let her tear her body all up, as well as continue to mentally fuck herself over, who's to say he wouldn't do that on his own? Something to think about. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and move on to the video itself. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And just give you guys something to ponder about. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And let's see here. Go ahead and hit our coffee shop. Whatnot. Give us some steady ambiance. And let's see here. This should be the video in question, I think. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, and let's give you guys a proper reading. All right, first off, big ups to Raw Phil and Diggs for cutting this up. Let's see here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Raw Phil, Darksydephil on people needing to get a job, needing to get a job and stop being poor. Wow. This is from July 13th of 2025, the year of the snake, because that's a thing. And like I said, big ups to Raw Phil, big ups to Diggs. Let's go ahead and get right into it, because I don't smell no bacon cooking or government cheese or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Because DSP thinks everybody's poor and needs to get a job except for himself. So let's go ahead and accommodate his situation. Here we go.
Many of us are struggling financially, says Michelle Soguchi. So get a job.
Oh, Michelle Soguchi. That's a throwback. All right, so let me give context to that. For those of you who know, you know. But for everybody else, Michelle Soguchi is a sock account for Review Tech USA. Now that I think about it, I didn't go over the whole Review Tech versus Sly situation. I might do it in the future, but I didn't see any interest in doing it at the time. It's better to let stuff like that play itself out. In any case, when is it kinda or kindly Sav? I want to say it's kinda Sav. When Sav and big ups her. When Sav got false flag, it was a stream I think she did. She was going over Review Tech USA stuff, clowning his ass as she should, as everybody should. That stream eventually got flagged down. Review Tech was obviously the prime culprit. He swore to God that it wasn't him, this, that, and the third. Review Tech and Sly were already beefing, and in one of the many Discord calls they had, Sly had confronted Review Tech about, about all these accounts and about flagging and this, that, and the third. Now, according to Sly, he says he didn't know how flagging and all of that works because he doesn't do it. And I believe him when he says that. Now, putting in a complaint or, a community strike and then, strikes and then video takedowns, all that shit works into these different categories. Review Tech tried to pull a bait and switch on Sly saying, oh, well, you're asking me about this. Well, here it goes right here. Here's the section. There's nothing there. But then someone smarted Sly up and was like, nah, you need to ask him about this. But Sly, to his credit, was like, well, wait a second, you got multiple accounts. So I need to see all that. I need to see all those accounts. I need to see what all that's about. And one of those accounts that Sly brought up was the Michelle Soguchi situation. Now, interestingly enough, when that was brought up, the first thing that comes out of Review Tech USA's fucking mouth is, oh, well, I already talked to Jay about that. Don't worry about that. I already talked to Jay about that. First off, Sly never even brought Jay up in that situation. Two, what the hell does that have anything to do with Jay anyway? They're asking you about that account because Review Tech has been known to fuck around on that account. So why was Jay brought up into any of that bullshit at all? And keep in mind, the reason why we even know that Review Tech USA is Michelle Soguchi is because Jay exposed that when Jay and Review Tech were beefing. And they were going through their problems. And Review Tech was tipping him through the Michelle Soguchi account. So that's how we even know about that. So why did Review Tech bring that up against on Sly later on when Sly wanted to confront him about what happened to Sav and her getting taken down? It makes you think. Now, I'm not saying that this Michelle Soguchi that we're listening to right now is the same as that one, but there's not too many people who use that name. So just keep that in mind.
Many of us are struggling financially, says Michelle Soguchi. So get a job. Usually,
and I'd like to think in some weird ass meta that DSP knows that's Review Tech USA, so he's low key telling him to go and get his ass a job and shit, which would be funny if that was the case. But I don't think either one of those numbskulls from the Brain Trust are working on that level. One can dream, I guess.
You're struggling financially is what you do is you seek employment. You go out and you do some work, and in exchange for the work, you receive financial compensation.
That's funny because he himself doesn't work. He begs. On top of that, if you have to beg each and every day, that means what you're doing isn't cutting it, right? It's not doing enough. So maybe you should do more, or maybe you should branch out, or maybe you should try to expand your reach. But DSP don't want to do that. He thinks, hey, I can beg on any platform, over any game, over any situation, and that's all a package deal because that's all what streaming is. And in a lot of ways, you guys may not see it now, but you'll see it in the upcoming years, I think. I think you're going to see more and more people start to adopt this when they can't do much of anything else. You kind of see eThoughts already do it, which is what DSP should be classified as anyway. But I think once you start seeing regular content creators start to really, when they start ramping up and asking for contributions and donations, like asking, not putting up a goal on their stream and then going off and actually trying to be entertaining. I mean, when you start seeing them front load and start asking for it before streams, in the middle of streams, and after streams, I think that's when it's going to circulate back to DSP, and then DSP is going to have to answer for it. And it's going to be very interesting to see how he goes about that. Because, truth be told, in some ways, the reason why Twitch is the way it is, and mainly the eThoughts, is because of Darksydephil. The reason why they have the protections in place that they have is because of Darksydephil. The system itself to protect Hassan Piker in some ways is because of Darksydephil. I want you to really think about that. If you don't believe me, I need you to go back to 2017 through 2018, mainly 2017, and I need you to 2017, 2018. That's fair. And I need you to look at those Twitch streams that DSP did, where they had him doing certain events, right, and certain interactive tie-ins for streams and whatnot, right? And more importantly, how they were working out or testing out their anti-trolling systems. The very systems that DSP was experimented on are now in full swing and are adjusted accordingly. DSP plays a big part in that. He don't know that 'cause he's stupid, but for everybody else who was paying attention, it's all there. Something to think about. Consider that like a side quest that you guys can go on whenever you guys have some time.
Then you can spend said compensation on whatever you want, like a sub.
You know what he kind of comes across as? He kind of comes across as one of those greasy smucks that you see in like, you know, like fucking like those old like Miami Vice movies or whatever, or just old movies from like the 80s and 90s and shit, where you have like those shysters, or, you know what I'm saying, con men. Basically, that's probably the best term for it. Those con men that always thought they could get over on you and whatnot, and they give you a little bit of information, and then they try to fleece you, or they sell you out to the main bad guy, and then once they get caught up, they want to join your side, and then they get killed in a rather ironic yet poetic justice sort of way. It's like that. That's literally how Phil Burnell is, and I honestly think, because he comes out of that era, that might explain why he acts the way he acts. Because like, if you were to look at like 2000, 2010, even 2020 individuals, right? They don't move like DSP do. Like, DSP is very much trapped in a time capsule, and that's what he emulates, and that's what he goes with. And because I think people aren't very familiar with it, they don't understand it, so they kind of just go along with whatever he says. But I think if they were a bit more hip to it, so to speak, it's an archaic term, maybe, just maybe, they would better avoid it, or they would disregard it as they should. I don't know. It's just a thought process. It's a theory.
It's amazing. Oh, man. They're hate watching. Why would they contribute? I mean, in a lot of cases, you're right. Again, we're not dumb. We know that a lot of the people who sit there in the kick chat are the holdovers from the Kino Casino baloney arc, right? We know this. Some of them are not. Some of them are legit fans and fun people, and some are just toxic dicks. And they sit there and they think that they're actually, you know, doing something. I don't know what they think they're doing. You know, I don't get it.
I mean, you're addressing it, so they're getting exactly what they want. But stupid is as stupid does.
The best part about it is these people still don't understand it. Like this person who says, begging for money while telling people to get a job is true art. What I do is called entertainment, genius. I entertain an audience for free.
You entertain an audience for free, but then you demand money. So then it's not free, right? Yeah, he could make the argument that, oh, well, they're asked, sorry, that they actually have a choice, because he's not preventing the content if he doesn't get the money for it. Oh, alas, that's not true, is it? That's why wage quitting exists. That's why he sits there and stalls before like the evening streams, so he can get a certain amount of money before he actually starts playing games. That's kind of reason why the Bottom Bitch podcast, or it's one of the reasons, I should say, it's one of the reasons why the Bottom Bitch podcast exists. It's not just to inflate the numbers of the stream, but it's also to get as much money as he can leading into the gameplay, because he knows more often than not that once the gameplay stops, contributions are going to dry up. That's why he needs you to buy in early. In the Bottom Bitch podcast, the daily therapy session, that's part of its functionality. The reason why it exists, or one of the reasons anyway.
But then I ask for compensation and I receive said compensation. It's
if you're asking for compensation for something that you allegedly put out for free, then it's not free, right? I mean, yet again, he can go ahead and give you the illusion of a choice, but it's not free. Just putting it out there.
work. And in fact, there is an art to it. There is.
Oh, wow.
That's why not everyone can do it. Get it? That's why so many people try to do it and fail, because they don't have it. They don't have the charisma. They don't have the focus. They don't have the drive. They don't have the skill. They can't enunciate. They can't talk. They can't interact. They can't do it.
You can't do any of those things either. He used to. See, he used to be able to do some of that, but he can't really do any of that now. He just relies on really stupid and vulnerable people. End of story. You can think you're great when everybody else around you or beneath you, if you will, are a couple of degrees, slower than you.
If anyone could do it, why wouldn't everyone be doing it?
Well, most people are doing it. That's the reason why you got pushed out. Well, that's one of the reasons why you got pushed out. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're at the top of the heap. How the fuck are you going to be at the bottom of anything and have the nerve to say that, hey, if everybody could do what I do, then they would do it? The majority of people who do it are far more successful than you, and they didn't do it for nearly as long as you did. And those who were around when you started, they're actually held in high esteem. They're held in high regard. They're respected, beloved in some cases. Not you. You're sitting here begging to fucking people who can barely get by themselves. You're begging for money from people who barely have enough to just get by themselves. Hey, you think that's a triumph? All right, then. Fair enough. Okay, whatever. Just get whatever you can, I suppose.
Exactly. It's work. You need talent. You need skill.
So it's work. You need talent. You need skill. So is that the type of... So that work ethic and that talent and that skill, is that what you displayed to Josh and Kino Casino when you were defending that pedophile? And then trying to justify you defending that pedophile because you didn't want your detractors, trolls, haters, and critics to look into other people in your audience. Some of them themselves are also pedophiles. And you didn't want to basically unveil or have the revelation come out that you have sick people around you. You attract sick people to you, and then you defend them so you can go ahead and profit and live the way you want to live. Even though you bitch and complain and admit that you don't have any savings, you don't have any retirement, you're more than likely going to do this until you die on stream, whether by heart attack, stroke, or whatever the fuck it's going to be. Or brain aneurysm is kind of what I'm voting for, but semantics. Like, where's all the skill and talent in that shit? If you had any of those things, you wouldn't need to beg. The work, Phil, would speak for itself. If you put something out and it's free and people choose to contribute to it, then it's just that. You shouldn't need to advertise that. They should know, or they'll go out of their way to look. Okay, hey, how can I go ahead and throw a couple bucks at this person, or whatever the case may be? If that's a thing, that's a thing. And even then, I'll even cut them even some more slack. And if you're going to go ahead and advertise, hey, if you guys want to contribute to the stream or to the content or whatever, here's the ways of doing it, and then get the fucking work on the content. But if you have to tell everybody this every 10, 15, 20 minutes, I don't know. Maybe the work isn't very good. Maybe the skill and talent is non-existent. Maybe you're just an e-beggar. Maybe the reason why you don't have maybe the reason why you beg is because you don't have any skill. You don't have any talent. You don't have any real work ethic. You're just a scumbag. You're just a leech. You're just a parasite. You're someone who exists to take advantage of other people who can't do any better or don't know any better. Maybe that's what that is. Semantics.
You need all those things to be successful, just like any other job. And the truth is,
coming from somebody who hasn't had a job in what? DSP hasn't worked since 2010? He's been out the workforce for damn near 15 years. Wow. But he don't mind having his fucking, he didn't mind having that underage chick, Panda, go ahead and get herself a job. He don't mind his live-in baked potato, Jesus Christ. He don't mind his live-in baked potato roommate to go ahead and get a job. But he's not willing to do any of that. But then again, this is the same person who lied to his mother on that 10-year fucking, that 10-year plan bullshit, knowing damn well he was never going to get a real job. He just said whatever he needed to say to her to get as much money and support out of her as he could. As if he wasn't already fleecing her before that. The Sunday before that. The Sunday before that. The Sunday before that. Yikes. Makes you think.
I don't have to answer to anyone. I don't have a boss that yells at me and me about.
But that's literally not true, because if a game's not doing well, the first thing you're doing is asking people what do they need to do, or what do you need to do to give them money. Sounds to me like you have a boss. Sounds to me like you're on your hands and knees sucking dick. Doesn't sound to me like you're a business owner, because a business owner kind of has an idea, a vision, goals, stuff that DSP knows very little, if not anything about. End of story. If you supposedly love games, right, then doesn't your passion come through, or should it come through the content or whatever? So you wouldn't need to beg. You wouldn't need to ask people to support. You wouldn't need people to buy in to playthroughs if they really like you and or the content that you provide. But that's not something that happens. Huh. I made a great screenshot. Yet again, look like a fucking greasy smut.
I'm doing things wrong. I'm my own boss. So I'm a step above people who have to work the 9 to 5.
The fact that nobody, meaning his dents, is saying anything about that or calling that out is insane to me. Absolute madness. Here, let me bring that back. That's insane to say something like that.
Yells at me and me about I'm doing things wrong. I'm my own boss. So I'm a step above people who have to work the 9 to 5. And by the way,
and yet you feel the need to beg these people for contributions. How are you the step above the people that you beg from? Holy shit. Holy shit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason why you need to go outside. This is the reason why you need to actually talk to people in IRL. This is why you should go out and meet people. You know what I'm saying? This is the reason why you need friends. You need people who are willing to be honest with you. Actually, I mean, you could theoretically find people to be honest with you and them not being your friends. You can have associates that do that. But anyway, whatever. This is why you need people in your life. This is the reason why you don't have yes men around you, or yes men and women, or whatever, or people that constantly agree with you just because that's the status quo or that's what they think everybody wants to hear. There's nothing wrong with going against the grain. But this right here is delusion. This is mental illness. That's what this is. Normal people don't talk like this. And if they believe in that, they're at least smart enough not to say it publicly from the very people they beg and or depend on for their income. Just saying. Fucking insane, bro. Fucking insane. Here, let me bring this whole thing back in sequence.
Have to answer to anyone. I don't have a boss.
You know what he looks like? He actually looks like Boogie when he was trying to, when he was prancing around his child bride, and he was trying to push that fucking, whatever type of fucking meme coin bullshit he was doing. That's what he kind of looks like here. Except for, obviously, he's not shirtless, thank God. But same concept, same energy. And that crooked mouth, man. Phil, you really need to go and see a doctor about that shit. That's just not bad. That's just not healthy. And it's progressively getting worse, too, for those of you who are paying attention. It's progressively getting worse.
Boss that yells at me and me about I'm doing things wrong. I'm my own boss. So I'm a step above people who have to work the 9 to 5. And by the way, I am not crapping on people who have to work the 9 to 5.
You just said you're a step above them. How's that not crapping on them? Stupid is as stupid does.
I was there for a very long time, right? I had a job since I was 15 years old. I wasn't.
You haven't worked in 15 years, Phil. Fucking retard.
Even legally able to be employed, and I had a job where I was getting paid under the table to make my own.
Phil, have you ever washed cars for your neighbors and shit? Have you ever mowed lawns and shit? Have you ever shoveled snow? Have you ever had a paper route? Have you ever, I don't know, run to the fucking grocery store for like an older person and whatnot and brought it back and got paid for it? Did any of us get paid for any of those things? No. It's called hustling, Phil. It's what happens. I mean, you don't know shit about that, but that's what that is, Phil. Shut the fuck up. Everybody has had an under the table job at one time or another. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? This isn't the 1700s or the 1800s and you were being exploited and whatnot on some real child labor shit. Shut the fuck up.
Money so that I could pay for things myself. And I had a job since I was 15 all the way until I was laid off from my job at the helicopter company in 2010.
Okay, you're gonna tell me you said from 15 till some random date. You want to give us an age for that, Phil? No? Oh, because you don't want people to know that when you fucking got dropped off in your what, mid-20s, mid-late 20s and shit, when you got let go, that your dumbass couldn't find a job after the fact. Yeah, because that would make you look like a loser. That would make you look pretty pathetic. Yeah, that'd be pretty bad, Phil. I get it. I roger that. I roger that.
And then I started work for myself. I started my own company. And now here I am, 15 years later, successful.
Begging for money on the internet. I started my own company. I guess what's that? Burnell Enterprises, Burnell Productions, and whatnot. And now I'm successful, begging for $300 a day to make ends meet, to feed his horse and his cat son and his crippling alcoholism and his gambling addiction and his spending addiction too. Yeah, that sounds like success, all right, Phil. Yeah, you're really living the American dream. Gotta tell you.
This is not begging. This is called self-employment, you incredible moron. I have my own company that's legally registered. I pay taxes.
You mean the company that you had to get legally registered after fucking trying to fleece the fucking system for 3 goddamn years? You mean that? I was just putting it out there. But yet, he didn't mind having his live-in girlfriend. She had to make sure that she paid her state and business occupation tax. But DSP never paid his because he thought he was somehow exempt of it. So how do you take a lot of pride in a business that you were forced to register, but you didn't mind making sure your little live-in girlfriend had her shit on the up and up? Imagine that.
I do everything like anyone who has their own company. Just because it's a business model you don't like because you're jealous doesn't mean that it's not a business. It just means you're a broke bum who's jealous that I'm successful and you're not.
Oh, shit.
Look in the mirror. See that? That's the most jealous person on the planet.
No, wait a second. He's talking about jealousy, but isn't he jealous of Max, Justin, PewDiePie, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye? Which I don't know why you'd be jealous of Jacksepticeye of all people. Like if you knew what I knew, you would. There's nothing to be jealous of. Anyway, but you can say that for most people. Truth be told, he's jealous of most of the top content creators and streamers and shit. So he's sitting here saying that people who are jealous of him are losers, and you only hate him because you don't agree with his business model. But yet he shits on other people's business models that are far more successful than him. That other people do. Other people adopt those business models and whatnot, and he don't. So how is he any different? So let's just say hypothetically he was right. He's not, but let's say he was. If I'm really jealous of him and I'm a loser, if you're jealous of Max and all those other people who do what Max does, that makes you a loser too. That makes you actually worse because theoretically, because the way he's talking, he's actually self-aware. And DSP has actually proven that because he's admitted that he's jealous of other people because of what they have, because he feels like he works as hard as they do, even though he doesn't even know what they do. He knows what's presented to him. He doesn't know what's actually behind that. Everything that you see about DSP is front face. It's not too hard to assume what he does, air quotes, behind the scenes, because more often than not, he's told you at one time or another. Something to think about. Just something to think about.
She wouldn't be in my chat typing like that. Now go get a fucking job and leave me alone.
That's funny, because for the other 200 people that's in his chat who praise him and give him money to set a third, is he telling them to get jobs? Is he going to sit there and tell, what's homeboy's name? Timbo Slice. He's only one of a few guys, actually. Did he tell Timbo Slice to go ahead and get a job, or get multiple jobs, I should say, given the fact that he ain't sat there and had, what, 3 bankruptcies? Or what about that dude who actually had to put, who had money put aside for his kids' braces and had to donate it to Phil? I can't even remember that guy's name. Or what about fucking, what's his name? Jax Rapture. Or Rapture. Whatever. What about Jax, who ain't sat there and put off getting a used car for years so he could contribute to DSP? Did he tell any of those guys to get jobs and shit? You know, now think about it, for Jax especially. He could have actually gotten himself a better paying job if he didn't have to take public transportation to get to wherever the fuck he was getting to. I can't remember if he says like an hour plus ride or whatever that is. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people who do that. But under reasonable circumstances, he could do better for himself if he, I don't know, invested in himself. Which would mean not only stop giving DSP money, but to maybe stop watching his garbage altogether and be able to focus on himself. Semantics. A dent's going to be a dent no matter how you look at it.
Holy shit.
Fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. Literally, we have an individual who's has begged in people's DMs to talk to him, to collaborate with him, right? And he's got the nerve to front face try to sit there and say that he's actually successful, and no one has a right to criticize him. That he's a successful business owner, right? And has no right to be criticized, despite the fact that he had 13 or 14 credit cards, at least 2, if not 3 business loans, went through a bankruptcy, went through a foreclosure, but he's successful. Despite the fact that he doesn't own anything or nothing of value. The most valuable asset that Darksydephil has is his home, and he doesn't even own that. Matter of fact, he'll never have that paid off. That'll never be, mark my words on this, he'll never pay that condo, or well, townhouse. He'll never pay that townhouse off. Ever. He'll die in that house. They'll remove his ass, and then they'll clean it up and they'll sell it to somebody else. He'll never have ownership of it. When he dies, he'll still be in debt in some way, shape, or form. Take that to the bank. Absolutely insane.
Yes, because keep in mind, anyone who has a sponsorship and has a referral link, anyone who pushes a product, anyone who has any way that you can contribute, a Patreon, a GoFundMe, oh, look, a PayPal for tips.
You said people who have sponsorships and endorsements, but you said that those people are shills and they're sellouts, and they shouldn't be trusted and they shouldn't be contributed to. But now you want to loop all of that stuff in. So if all of that's all in the same basket, then you shouldn't be supported because you're a sellout. You'll say or do anything for money. That's what he called Max. He didn't say that to Justin, which is weird because Justin has sponsorships and endorsements. But whatever. We'll save that for another time. But he said that shit about Max. Anything that says #ad, they're liars, they're shills, and they're sellouts, and they shouldn't be trusted or supported. #ad, dude. Okay. I like his phantom hooves, by the way. That's kind of cool.
Anyone who does that, they don't have a job, right? They don't have a job.
But Max actually has a job, though. So does Justin. So does most people in the FGC, to be honest with you, or even other content creators. They don't do this shit for a living because it's kind of difficult, too. Like, there are people who do, don't get me wrong. But not everybody. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody. You'd be surprised. I was surprised, actually, on how some of the more successful content creators, especially streamers, don't do this for a living. Because it's volatile. It's not reliable. You know what I'm saying? It's easier just to bank that shit and that's it. Especially amongst Call of Duty YouTubers, especially. Not everybody was like fucking Wings of Redemption's dumbass and shit. I'll give you an example. 402 Thunder has been a fucking fireman even before he started YouTube. This shit was always side money to him. And you're talking about someone who was pulling in hundreds of thousands of fucking views per video back in his day. You know what I mean? And he did that for years. And he was smart enough never to rely on this because, one, all the other guys that were around him did, and they end up crashing and burning. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And two, it was more meaningful to actually help people and maybe even save them if they needed it than fucking do video game content. Something to think about.
No, they're not employed. Well, I hate to tell you this, the feds think I'm employed. The feds say that I have a legally registered business that I pay taxes on. So if the feds say I...
And how many fucking payment plans have you been on? And if let's go ahead and say with any stretch of the imagination that he was a responsible taxpayer. If that's the case, then you wouldn't be on a payment plan. Don't get me wrong. People go through shit. People have problems. People have setbacks. I get that. That's not what he did, though. He purposely put himself in a deficit. He purposely tried to play the system or game the system and not pay what he owed, his fair share, if you will, like the rest of us. Something about.
That's good enough for me. All right. That's all I know.
Oh, because I pay taxes, that justifies what I do, and it justifies that I'm successful. Okay, that's an interesting way of going about it, but so be it.
I should put this away now.
Don't people on disability get their taxes taken out of their disability checks and their SSI and all that bullshit? Right? That's a thing, isn't it? Or something along those lines. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure there's some type of taxes that's taken out of that. I could be wrong, but if that is a thing, then what does that mean, Phil? You're on par with someone who is given government aid? Do you feel good about that? Now, do you feel justified in your situation? I'm asking for a friend.
Because when I wear these, my eyes get all messed up. Really? Cydia says now, Twitch implemented a feature. If you get banned from a stream, not only can't you chat, but they black out your screen. You can't even see the stream. So what's next? Next, if you get banned, they come to your house. Someone rings your doorbell. You open the door and someone goes doink right in your eyes. Like, oh. Like, now you can't see the stream, bitch. And then they close the door. Oh my God. That's great.
Wow.
That's amazing.
See how quickly that shit fell apart? It's always funny. Anything that you say can be meaningful or funny in your own head. But when you're in the silence and when you're in your own company, it doesn't last very long. Take that in. And that right there is common amongst locals. It's very, very common amongst locals. Because one can't go through life believing that everybody agrees with them or everybody's laughing with them. Sooner than later, the sinking reality that people are laughing at you always comes to the surface. Can't beat it. Can't run from it.
All right. All right, guys, what else do you want to talk about? Or are we have we exhausted the silliness factor of the topics today? We've already gone an hour. And we've exceeded the support goal, which is amazing. So thank you for that. We're in prime position to hit another goal. We're at 190 out of 300. We can absolutely hit another goal on this stream today. We still got some podcasts going. We still got the entire gameplay portion of Death Stranding 2. It would be great to hit 2, because then we've been in prime position for DSP tries it in the next couple of days. Which is
the hunger is never satisfied. It's never slated. That right there, I think, is one of the more fascinating aspects about DSP's begging. Because I've met a lot of greedy people in my time. Holy fuck, I've met some absolute greedy ass people. For sure. Right? Most of them were able to hide it decently well. But I've met a lot of greedy ass people. DSP is an anomaly all in himself. A greed that is true. It's not even a greed. His greed, to me, it comes across as a hunger that just can never be satiated. You know what I'm saying? It's even worse than an addiction, to be honest. Because if you see how he reacts when he doesn't hit goals on camera, oh, he acts like it's no big deal, this, that, and third. Once YouTube mode is gone, you can almost see the pain and frustration that he has for not being able to hit that goal. And that's the reason why, is because that hunger, it represents more than just one thing. It's not just the greed of not getting the money. It's not the greed of the acknowledgement, or even no, acknowledgement is actually what I'm looking for. The acknowledgement that he is successful and that people are willing to buy in, people are willing to support him, they do like him, they do care about him, whatever the fuck other delusions that he has. But also, it's yet another thing that the detractors can go ahead and point at and be like, see, you ain't shit. The people on your streams thought you ain't shit. You don't provide actual content. You just got a bunch of idiots that feel bad for you. And once their asses got tapped out, like during this stream, you're a fuck boy. Just like they're a bunch of fuck boys. And that's why you don't have shit to show for it. And now he has to leave the stream knowing that. Because he knows it's true. You know what I'm saying? He knows that it's true. Yeah, a clock is right twice a day. Fair enough. There's still 22 other hours left. That's a lot of opportunity to be a fuck up. See what I'm saying? So when you That's just the way I take it. That's the way I interpret it. Is that I don't look at his greed as greed anymore. I look at it as a hunger that he'll never be able, a hunger and a thirst, if you will, that'll never be quenched, ever, because he has so much riding on, or he has such a dependency on being perceived as successful, at people believing in his content and using their money to back it up. Because that's the reason why, or that's one of the reasons why I should say, he begs. That's the reason why he demands contributions. Because if people are willing to buy in, then in his mind, they have to think I'm doing something right. Even if it's sympathy, it doesn't matter because he'll spend that any way he sees fit. But as long as the money keeps coming in, he can never say that he's a failure. The reality is, because you have to ask for contributions makes you a failure off rip. At least in DSP's case. If you're not putting out a quality product, if you're not displaying any actual skill or know-how, if you're not entertaining, then what are you bringing to the table? What do you really have to offer? What purpose do you serve? And that's a question that he can't answer.
Is what I want to do. I want to do it by Tuesday.
A lot of dead air, Phil. Sometime today.
Really? I'm at the part where I don't get to shoot for a while. Huh?
Oh, that was a good place to cut that off. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, something short and sweet, but I think the point has been made. Holy shit, bro. Holy shit. You got some nerve. You got some nerve to tell people to get a job when you yourself needs one. Sorry, you yourself needs one as much as anybody else, to be honest with you. Like I said, begging is not an occupation. It's I guess it's kind of like a survival mechanism. No, I can't even say that. I can't even say it's a survival mechanism. Now that I think about it, I guess I should actually sit down and actually think what that is. Like if you were to sit down and actually think about it, what is begging at its core? You know what I'm saying? Like if you're absolutely handicapped physically or even mentally, where you just can't get a job or you're just not competent enough to hold one, physically or otherwise, then yeah, like I guess now that I think about it, like what is begging at its core? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is that really? I don't know. That's more of a philosophical thing I should probably think about further. Anywho, it is an interesting question, though, I suppose. Now that I think about it, I never really sat there and thought about, like, what the hell is begging when you really think about it? And what drives a person to feel justified to do it constantly? Like, where does pride, as most of you say, or as some of you say that he has, where does pride, self-respect, dignity, decency, where does any of that stuff like kind of fall into place with something like that, if it even can? Anywho, that's maybe something we could think about at another time. All right, big ups to Diggs, big ups to Raw Phil as usual, very much appreciated. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it for me. That's right, that's it for me for this broadcast. It's been fun. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. I'll catch you guys for the next one of these, whenever that may be. Hopefully, sooner than later. This has been the Snort Report. This has been DSP News. Always late, never breaking. Unreliable coverage that you can't count on. Oh, yes! A GTG Network of Productions. For the Snort Report, SnortBucks Coffee Company, Heart Snorts Gin and Tonic, as well as Tim Snortons, as well as any other subsidiaries and affiliates. I've been your host / anchor, GTG, and I'm signing off. Holy shit. The mind fuckery, I gotta tell you. Oh my god, you have to be disconnected from reality to be able to say shit like that. To say it to them. Be like, hey, I'm a leaps and bounds above you. I'm a level above you. Because I have my own business and you guys work 9 to 5. That's insane. That's literally insane. Especially when you conduct your air quotes business like a 9 to 5. The fact that he doesn't see the irony in that makes it even more poetic. Anywho, I've been your host / anchor GTG, and I'm signing off. Take care of yourselves, people. Holy shit. And don't be an e-beggar. Nothing good comes out of it. Don't be an e-beggar. Later, people.